It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working like a dog.
Are you ready to get down to business? Join seasoned entrepreneur, community leader, and Army veteran Scott Shalom Klein, who will take you behind the scenes with those who work in America's small business scene and speak with leaders making an impact, creating jobs, and telling their story in entrepreneurship. So let's get down to business. On AM 560, The Answer, here's your host, Shalom Klein.
And indeed, we're all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship and business. We talk a lot about small business here. You're listening to Get Down to Business. I'm your host, Shalom Klein. And remember, you can always download podcasts on my website at syklein.com. While you are there, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Shalom Klein. So today, I am excited to talk about Dr. Laura Gabayan's Wisdom Research Project, because she set out to scientifically determine what is wisdom and how we attain it. After interviewing 60 wise adults, she and her team uncovered 8 essential life skills that work together to create the mindset of the wise. Dr. Gabayan, Laura, is a world-renowned physician and expert in research, and she has quite literally authored the book on common wisdom. It's called Common Wisdom, 8 Scientific Elements of a Meaningful Life. Laura, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So what inspired you to write this book?
You know, in 2013, and I was very left brain, 2013, my body started to fall apart, and the physicians I knew wanted to put me in a category of, oh, you have this, you have that, and that's when I was like, well, who doesn't do that? Who thinks outside the box? And as you can tell, I still slur my speech. I have weakness all over. I found out it was chronic Lyme, but the process led to me like talking about wisdom and thinking about wisdom and writing this book.
Well, so glad that you did. And I'm curious to understand your process for scientifically determining the elements that comprise wisdom.
Well, you know, I looked at literature. I looked at what we knew about wisdom, and we didn't know anything. And it was all subjective, and it was all anecdotal. So I was like, well, we need to really know what this means. And that's when I was like, I hired a research assistant, I hired a marketing person, and we essentially told everyone we knew, do you know someone wise? And that's when I found the 60 wise individuals across North America. And I spoke with them, I interviewed them on Zoom.
Well, amazing. And what were the qualities that you uncovered that wise people share?
So it's funny because I called it common wisdom because these were the qualities they had in common. And they were resilience, kindness, positivity, spirituality, humility, tolerance, creativity, and curiosity.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So can you give us some examples of ways in which people can perhaps gain mastery in the 8 elements to become more calm, confident, and courageous, or in other words, wise themselves?
I know the key, I think 4 of those 8 are related to how you relate to other people and how you interact with other people. And for example, I interviewed people who had lost 2 husbands. I interviewed people who were CEOs of companies. One of my interviews was CEO of 5 companies. So it was really like, what I thought about it was the way you relate to other people using kindness, tolerance, humility, and curiosity are really important. And in any business perspective, a leader, if they use those 4 skills of the 8 I discovered, it'll really allow them to propel forward.
I'm chatting with Dr. Laura Gabayan. She's a world-renowned physician and expert in research. And through her Wisdom Research Project, she interviewed 60 wise adults across North America and defined the 8 fundamental elements of wisdom. And those findings are captured in her new book, Common Wisdom, 8 Scientific Elements of a Meaningful Life. So Laura, I want to understand a little bit more about your background. Again, you're a physician, you're a researcher. Can you share us a little bit of the behind the scenes of how you decided to pursue these lines of work?
Well, it's funny because before I even looked into wisdom, I had published a lot in academia. So research was my life. I had a master's. I did a 3-year kind of traditional training in research, and I knew how to do it. And that's when I was like, well, I can help define this myself. No one knows what wisdom is, so let's figure it out ourselves. But I knew, and there's two kinds of different research you apply. There's qualitative and quantitative, and I use qualitative research, and that's when we arrived at those 8 elements.
Indeed. Absolutely. So I want to make sure our listeners understand how these 8 elements can enhance the workplace and what takeaways there are for the entrepreneurs who may be tuning into this program. You know, entrepreneurs are hustling and bustling each and every day, doing the accounting, the sales, the marketing, and sometimes even, picking up the trash in their store or in their business. What advice or what takeaways do you have for those listeners?
I'm a very positive person, and when I lost my home a few months ago, I was like, well, what advice do I have for myself, and what advice do I have for anyone else overcoming a challenge, or an entrepreneur overcoming in a company challenge? I always say, remember that things work out, and think that things are happening for you and not to you. And so when you encounter a challenge at work, it's a way for you to learn, to grow, and to master whatever it is. It's not there to beat you down, it's there to teach you something. So my advice for entrepreneurs is keep going. Know that you'll have bumps in the road, but things eventually do work out, and things are there to teach you a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice indeed, chatting with Dr. Laura Gabayan. And Laura, in what ways does knowing the elements of wisdom improve leaders' ability to affect change in their organizations?
Well, I definitely think you lead by example. Whether you're a leader or you're someone who interacts with others and is not in a leadership role. And so I think applying those 8 elements in my book, Common Wisdom, really kind of helps others kind of see those as well. And as I interviewed 60 of the wise individuals across the US and Canada, and only one person had all 8. So don't be hard on yourself. Realize it's a process, but realize that as many of those elements you can master will help you. And I'll repeat them, resilience, kindness, positivity, spirituality, humility, tolerance, creativity, and curiosity.
Amazing. 8 essential elements. And that's good. That's a good reminder that we're not aiming for perfection over here, but we're aiming to always be better. That's always the goal. So, Laura, as we come to a conclusion, what promise does the ability to become a wise person have for society at large?
I think now we're in the age of the internet, right? And so we're age of lack of humility. We're in the age of showing off. And so I think these elements really help you have a more meaningful life. And regardless of which one, sorry, I have a cough, you pursue, which one you go down and you want to excel at, regardless, you will have a more meaningful life. And it won't happen overnight. It'll take time. But know that working on those 8 elements in my book, Common Wisdom, is working on yourself. And that's why I wrote the Common Wisdom Journal as well, because that helps you hone in on the ones that you can work better at.
Again, been chatting with Dr. Laura Gabayan, world-renowned physician and expert in research. Through her Wisdom Research Project, she interviewed 60 wise adults across North America and defined the 8 fundamental elements of wisdom. And they are captured in her new book, Common Wisdom, 8 Scientific Elements of a Meaningful Life. Laura, I want to make sure our listeners can find your book and get in touch with you. How can they do that?
So the best way is it's on Amazon. The Common Wisdom is on Amazon. And if they want to learn more about me and the book, they can go onto my website, lauragabayan.com. And it's a hard one, so I think if they just look for Common Wisdom, because it's common, the common elements, it will lead them to my website.
Well, Laura, thank you so much for joining us. What a great conversation. What fascinating research. I can't wait to have you back on the program real soon. We'll link in the show notes, make it easy for folks to get in touch with you. And we're going to squeeze in a quick break over here, but we've got a lot more in store for you this week on Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. I promise you don't want to touch the dial because we've got a lot more jam-packed in this week's show. You can always go to my website, syklein.com. That's how you can get in touch with me and find all 11 years of shows. You can also get in your favorite podcast app. Just search for Get Down to Business. But make sure you subscribe, rate, review, and share so you don't miss a single episode, and neither will the people around you. Again, you're listening to Get Down to Business, the show about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. We'll be right back.